Lighthouses in general are romantic edifices. They're different from many other structures. They're on the edge. They're always on the edge of the earth in some way or other. It's welcome and warning. It's those two aspects that I think add to the sense of romance that lighthouses have, because, on the one hand it's beckoning you, and on the other hand it's saying stay back.
In the summer of 1799, newspaper headlines announced the building of a lighthouse on the westernmost edge of Martha's Vineyard, atop the Gay Head Cliffs, overlooking the waters of Vineyard Sound. Whale oil was burned in lanterns to light the tower, a beacon to ships at sea, while volunteers stood at the ready to rescue sailors in distress from the dangerous rocks submerged just below the water's surface between Martha's Vineyard and the Elizabeth Islands, an area known as Devil's Bridge.
It was requested of the federal government a light be put here because there are rocks that go off the cliff edge off to my right, and it's called the Devil's Bridge, and they're just enough below the surface you can't see them, but they'll take the bottom out of a good-sized ship, which they had done.
The most tragic example, the SS City of Columbus, a passenger steamer that set sail from Boston on January 17, 1884, only to run aground on Devil's Bridge in the dead of night. Rescue crews dispatched from the Gay Head Lighthouse that next morning would brave the bitter cold and wind to save 29 people from the rocky waters. 104 would die in what remains the worst maritime disaster in New England history. At the height of the whaling industry, Vineyard Sound was second only to the English Channel as the busiest waterway in the world. Gay Head Light was credited with sparing many a sailor from the dangers of Devil's Bridge. But the lighthouse became more than a marker for the mariner at sea. Over the years, it became one of the island's principal tourist attractions. Visitors poured in from the mainland for an afternoon in the sun and the splendor of the view, perched high atop the gaily colored cliffs that jut out over the open waters. The view from the top just as breathtaking today.
So over here you can see the results of erosion over time. We're leaving these things in place.
But as times changed, so did the cliffs. These were the bluffs in 1890 and today. Worn by the wind and the sea, the bluffs have retreated until the lighthouse now sits less than 46 feet from the edge of the cliff, inching closer every day.
What's happening is we're losing 1.5 to 2 feet per year at the cliff edge, and I've been watching this, as I said, for 24 years, knowing that we were going to have to consider moving the light at some point.
So close, experts say the lighthouse built to save lives is now in need of saving before the unthinkable happens.
Topples over the cliff. That's what happens.
Geological surveys show the bluffs, made primarily of clay and sandstone, are retreating at an average rate of 1.8 feet per year. Studies confirm coastal erosion is a primary culprit, along with other environmental factors. Efforts are now underway to move the lighthouse inward. It's happened before. The original wooden lighthouse had to be moved in 1844 to the current site, where it was eventually replaced with a brick tower equipped with a first-order Fresnel lens, and became famous for its signature red and white lights.
Even after the schooners and the whaling ships had given way to small fiberglass sailboats, it used to be that when you saw white, white, red flashing from the headland up ahead of you, you knew that was Gay Head and you knew you were home.
That original lens is now housed in a tower at the Martha's Vineyard Museum.
It was absolute top-of-the-line 19th century high technology. 7,000 pieces of glass arranged in such a way as to create a light beam visible under ideal conditions up to 20 miles out to sea.
The distinctive red and white lights, now produced electronically, are still visible today.
Our signature is red and white 15 seconds. So although second to GPS, it's still a functioning aid to navigation. All 5 of the lighthouses on the Vineyard are. So we still get boaters every year that come and they say, I'm glad your lighthouse was on last night because my GPS was down.
But for how long? Recent storms have accelerated erosion in the slough
Very dramatic. We'll have sloughing off just in a 24-hour period in July, a huge section of the clay cliffs sloughed off, where it was pushed out by one of the underground streams. So yeah, 1 to 2 feet a year and 4 feet last year because of storms.
At that pace, experts fear the lighthouse and all its history could be washed out to sea.
You know, we have great history here. It's amazing. We've got federal history. We've got, you know, John Hancock signing the first check for the original light. We've got John Adams discussing the Gay Head light. For the first light, which was built here in 1799, Paul Revere provided copper for the roof of that light. So we've got a lot of sort of founding fathers American history that's embedded in this spot.
The National Trust for Historic Preservation recently ranked Gay Head Lighthouse among the 11 most endangered historic places. It is the only lighthouse with a history of Native American lighthouse keepers, which were members of the area's Wampanoag tribe.
It is the strongest representation of the maritime history of the island.
Fundraising events are now underway to raise the $3 million needed to move the tower.
Without it, we just have a bare piece of grass up here, and people could say, oh, there was a light here, but it's quite a different thing from going up into the light that has been here for 158 years.
It is now a race against time to save a functioning light and a landmark of historical significance.